This moment perfectly describes my experience with scripted horror games. You are in the middle of a dangerously dense snowstorm. The relentless wind makes an already brutal journey even more hopeless as your character struggles to stay on his feet. Try not to fumble into the deadly cold. You push forward. No vision, no sense of direction, only enemies appearing as a silent confirmation that you are on the right path. Eventually, you stumble upon a bridge, or what's left of it. A once imposing structure now crumbling to pieces. The metal floor is filled with broken pipes and debris, forming a precarious pathway that creaks under every step. The bridge is on the verge of collapse, the storm is blinding, and you stand there, mind racing with possibilities. Is the bridge going to give away, forcing you to run before it's too late? Will a swarm of enemies ambush you as you fight to escape? Could there be a boss fight ahead? Something big has to happen, right? You take your first steps, the storm rages even stronger. The crack beneath you grows louder. Jacob's breathing becomes heavier. You move carefully, you don't want to misstep, don't want to trigger the inevitable collapse. The game builds the tension, holding it for just the right amount of time. You're desperate to know what happens next, until you reach the very edge of the broken, almost unusable bridge.
Nice and easy.
That's it. No running, no boss fight, no swarm of enemies, nothing truly dangerous, nothing heart racing, nothing that makes you feel the real tension. Instead, all I had to do was to hold forward, just one key, not two, not a frantic sequence of inputs, just a single continuous press as the game handled everything else for me. This very moment perfectly describes my experience with scripted horror games. Scripted horror. If you do some research, you'll find similar terms like restrained or confined horror. There are many ways to describe this type of horror, which mostly appears in games, but what does it actually mean? Let's take a step back to define it properly. One analogy that I like to use for this video is baking cookies. Some people use molds to shape their cookies easily. Pour the dough in and it slowly takes the form predetermined by the mold. Now, let's compare this to a classic survival horror. Take Resident Evil 1, for example. You start in a grand, eerie, empty hall alongside your team. Once the opening cutscene ends, the game hands you full control. Of course, to progress, you need to go through a specific door, but before that, you have the freedom to explore. You test every button, walking, running, managing your inventory, inspecting doors, attempting to open locked ones. It's instinctual. We have to understand the mechanics before we can truly play the game. After this initial discovery comes the challenge, the first zombie encounter. You can either fight or run. Both choices have consequences. Running preserves resources, while fighting makes you stronger but leaves you vulnerable later. It's a game within a game, a back and forth between player and developer. No hand-holding, just pure player discovery. Another great example, one I actually made a video about it, is the intro to Resident Evil 4, the OG version. After the cutscene, the game fully begins. You have complete control over Leon. You can aim, shoot, use your knife, open your inventory, read files. If you're curious, you might notice crows nearby. Can I shoot them? You wonder. The game responds with a reward. Items. Now you've learned something. The word rewards curiosity. There's no constraints. You will die a lot, you will get lost, you'll find treasures in every playthrough. It's a treasure hunt within the game. Here there's no mode dictating how you should play. You explore, you experiment, you create your own approach with the tools given to you. The experience is shapeless. In Resident Evil 4, you are the mode, and the game is your sandbox. Now let's talk about games that fit the cookie mode analogy. One of my favorites is The Evil Within. Not the entire game, it's actually quite difficult overall, but its introduction. The player's welcome card is one of the most scripted, confined horror experiences to date. You play as Sebastian Castellanos, and to summarize quickly, you and your team respond to a distress call from the Beacon Mental Hospital. Upon arriving at the scene, you take control of Sebastian, or at least partially, as you are only able to walk and slowly run until you reach the hospital entrance. Inside, you are met with a gruesome sight. Bodies scattered across the hall, a gory scene that sets the tone for the game's disturbing aesthetic. After a cutscene, you regain control of Sebastian, but once again, only to walk towards another scripted event. Here, he's attacked and wakes up in a basement, hanging upside down by his legs. The game briefly shifts to a first-person perspective as you witness the sadist, a hulking figure, dismembering corpses nearby. The sickening sound of flesh being torn apart echoes through the decayed, blood-stained walls. After the sadist leaves the room to continue his work somewhere else, Sebastian spots a knife lodged in one of the hanging bodies in front of him. The game prompts you to wiggle the analog stick, making Sebastian struggle to reach it. Once he does, he frees himself, sneaks into the sadist's room and grabs the key needed to escape. Unlock the door, he rushes up a staircase, desperate to flee. But of course, there's more. As Sebastian sneaks through the hallway, he unknowingly steps on a wire, triggering a loud alarm. Almost instantly, the sadist appears behind him, revving his chainsaw ready to turn Sebastian to his next masterpiece. Here, you don't fight, you just run. And just like the bridge scene in Callisto Protocol, there's no real danger unless you refuse to press anything. You hold one key, forward, and you run, and run, and run. Even when Sebastian drops through a hatch into a gruesome, blood-soaked meat slide, dodging massive grinders that look ready to shred him to pieces, the thread is an illusion. You can't actually die here. Even if you put the controller down, nothing happens. I tested myself just to prove how scripted this sequence really is. So right, we are here again, being chased by the sadist, and basically this is like super rail section. There are no things you can do to fuck up. You just keep running, and that's it. Basically, Sebastian is like the only way that you can die is literally if you just stop pressing a forward. Like, is literally the only way you can die. The only way you can die. So yeah, we're just gonna run here. As I can see you, I'm just going holding forward, right? So we're gonna press X so you get enter to the chute, and then I'm just gonna let Sebastian do the thing. I don't need to control anything. I'm not doing anything. I'm not pushing any directional. It's just the game doing its thing. You don't need to do anything here. Basically, it's totally 100% on rails. You cannot die there unless you manage to control Sebastian towards the spikes, of course. Another heartbreaking example was the intro of the remake of the first horror game that I ever played on my PlayStation 1, Resident Evil 3. Don't get me wrong, the first half of the intro is superb. It's miles better than the original RE3, where the game just starts with barely any explanation of how and why Jill was there in the first place. You had to read the comic, they said, but I'm talking about the game. The remake takes its time to explore the aftermath of the Spencer mansion. The scars deeply engraved by the horrors Jill had to endure to survive the nightmare of the first game. It connects to a beloved entry in the series, making this portrayal of Jill instantly more intriguing. You can connect with her. Jill gains so much more depth here, going beyond the simple female protagonist who is just there, like Regina in Dino Crisis. Jill starts in a nightmarish sequence where we see one of her deepest fears, turning into one of the undead she has spent years fighting. The trauma kicks in and the fear of losing control, losing her true self to something beyond her power. It's unbearable. It's a really well structured opening, a carefully designed introduction to the character we'll be playing as for almost the entire game. This brilliant introduction is quickly torn apart by the next sequence. The phone rings. Jill walks over to answer it. It's Brad, warning her to leave immediately. Something is chasing her. Something... Yeah, we're already dealing with Nemesis. Is this a boss fight? No. Are you going to have to run, using the environment to slow him down as you make your way through the streets of Raccoon City? Not really. By now, you probably know where this is going. If you guessed, hold a button for the entire sequence, you are almost right. This time I actually had to turn left and right, but every time Nemesis was on me, all I had to do was press forward. One key, nothing else. The game did the rest. No tension, no risk, no fear, no horror, just scripted horror. I'm not against cinematic set pieces. I think they are a great way to tell a story. I grew up playing Metal Gear Solid over and over, just sitting on the couch, listening, watching all the lore dump unfold. A universe expanding before my eyes, giving purpose to my actions whenever I took control again. But there's a time and place for that. Imagine horror as a straight line. At the start of a movie, it begins slow, introducing characters, laying out small but important details that serve as foreshadowing. The plot gradually unfolds, the straight line now curves upward, the story progresses, a mystery appears. The viewer has no answers but is curious, engaged. More characters emerge, more clues surface, that slight upward curve now skyrockets. Then the first major reveal, a murder. The characters arrive at a crime scene, a house cloaked in silence. They find a body, someone familiar. The camera holds on the scene, stretching the tension. The line flattens for a moment. Then, the body moves. A loud noise, people scream, they run desperate. The line shoots straight up, hitting its peak. And just as it suddenly drops. The tension cools, the cycle resets, another rise, another release. Sometimes bigger spikes of adrenaline, sometimes a quick, easy jump scare, but it always follows this pattern. Introduction, build-up, tension, release. High-octane cutscenes are great to watch, but they shouldn't replace player agency in some moments of true tension. Let us be immersed in the moment, not just as spectators when fear is supposed to take hold. Let us play through the action-packed moments. Let us fail. Let us learn, experiment, burn resources. Let fear shape the experience. Scripted horror sequences always have this odd sensation of feeling out of place whenever they happen. They break the tension. There's no fear when you know all you need to do is press a button to escape. I'm making this video because I played through the Callisto protocol and I was deeply disappointed. The game oozes atmosphere, is overly detailed. Tight hallways can feel almost claustrophobic at times with metal pipes and wires cluttering the space. The tension is always there, but once you realize you can hold two buttons to dodge every single attack, even on the hardest difficulty, the fear vanishes. The tension becomes meaningless because the inevitable release just leads to me tearing a monster apart with my batoon in a few hits. The game has interesting lore, well-voiced characters with engaging moments and jaw-dropping scenery, but when you return to the gameplay aspect, it feels so bland. I can feel the passion, but I think the game lacked polish and maybe even focus when it came to its horror sequences. There are a few jump scares, but they feel so cheap. You feel overpowered right from the very first encounter. Just dodge left, right, and punch. then repeat again and 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 again. I really liked the world, the lore. I wanted to enjoy this game, but there are moments, even great moments, but overall it's just not horrifying. A graphical feast with no real threat, no real tension, no real stakes, just scripted horror.